Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dental Water Cooler series for the Ultimate Patient Experience. I'm David Moffet, your host. I'm a retired dentist from Sydney, Australia, and this is the first program monthly of the series on how to build a great dental practice, relying mainly on customer service, and so reducing your outspend on marketing, because it's about keeping patients that you attain as opposed to just attaining more and more patients, not treating them correctly. So I'm having a conversation this evening with whoever logs in. At the moment, I'm talking to Naren, and we're talking about how to build the dental practice of your dreams without having to spend an extra penny on marketing. So good evening, Naren.
Thank you, Dr. Moffat. I do have a lot of questions for you. So let me start out by asking you, what do you mean by the ultimate patient experience?
Well, I think every patient has an experience when they go to the dentist. And sometimes as dentists, we forget what people are feeling, even people who are very strong and positive in their behaviours. We forget that people are quite anxious about dentistry. There's a lot of the unknown involved in dentistry, Naren, and that unknown, I feel it when I go to the dentist, and I know what's going on, but I can't see what's going on. I know the order of things that have to be done to me, but all I can really see is the light. I can listen to the music. I can maybe watch a movie. I can hear conversations. I can see movement around me or motion, but I can't actually even see the instruments going in and out of my mouth. And I know what they're doing. So if I take that back to then the average person in the street, it really is a fearful sort of process. What are they going to do? How much is it going to cost me? Is it going to hurt when they do it? Is it going to hurt after they do it? Is it that bad that I need to get it done? All of these things are going through people's minds. What we as dentists tend to forget is that we tend to think it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. We tip out the box, we put all the pieces together, we finish the jigsaw puzzle, leave it on the table, go and show a lot of people how good we are at doing the jigsaw puzzle, and that's it. But we forget about that there's a human being attached to these processes with a lot of thoughts that are going through their mind. So what are they experiencing? If we just treat it as a line at the post office, a line to go and pay your taxes, there's no experience involved in that. And sometimes we do that in dentistry. We start to get so mechanical with our own processes in our dental office that we forget that there's actually a human being there worried about what's going to happen to them, not knowing what has happened to them. And then at the end of the appointment, they don't know what's happened to them. They can't see it. It's inside their mouth. And most of the time they've got to come back for more, and they don't really have a justification. They can't see what the next thing's going to be. They still look the same on the outside, except maybe they might have a droopy face. They look in their wallet and they notice that they're short a few $100s. It's quite bizarre. We've got to make the doing of the dentistry secondary to the experience of being at the dentist. And so that's what we tried to do in my practice, was to give people a reason or multiple reasons for wanting to come and wanting to keep coming. And it's not that, if you don't do this, your tooth is going to blow up, it's going to hurt, and I'm going to rip your tooth out. It's, they're my friends. I like to see my friends. They look after me. They care about me. They ask about me. They are really nice people there. I enjoy their company. And while I'm there, I'm getting my teeth done. And men are worse at this, because men don't really have these relationships out there in the marketplace with vendors, retailers, things like that. Women have these relationships. Talk to women about who does their nails. Same lady does my wife's nails for 20-something years. 20-something years seeing the same lady to do the nails. Every second Tuesday, getting my nails done. I said, you could get your nails done closer to home. My wife says, no, I've got to go to Karen. My wife travels 40 minutes across town to get a hair done every 5 or 6 weeks. I said, you should go to my guy around the corner. His salon does a lot of people like you. It's only 5 minutes away. No. And so we've got to, why can't we transpose that relationship into dentistry to build, to make it an experience, to make it like catching up with good friends. Oh, and by the way, I had my teeth done. That's what we're talking about. We're lifting the patient out of the physical of the dentistry and into the experience of the visit to our office. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm starting to get it, but I think you need to help me more.
Okay.
So when you say there's a human being in the middle of this, and the stuff, the mechanical or the scientific side of dentistry, like working on implants or adding a crown, all that is not the reason why people come back. They come back because they have a friend they like to go see. They come back because they like the way you make them feel. Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it is. I had people used to come and see me and travel a long way, across town in the traffic, from rural areas into the city of Sydney. And I'd always marvel that these people were driving past many other dental offices to come and see me. Sometimes it was a whole journey out. My longest ever patient, who I saw for 28 or 29 years, I'm in Sydney. He would travel from 2 hours north of Sydney where he lived. Then he got a transfer to Darwin. He'd come every 6 months to get his teeth checked and cleaned by me from Darwin. That's like traveling from Boise, Idaho to Miami. It's a long way. It's a heck of a long way to go and get your teeth done when you're flying across land that's got a lot of dentists, and there are dentists in Darwin. And it was because of that relationship. I'd always done his teeth. I'd always looked after him. He had no reason to change. The care was always there. We'd built this mutual respect. We respected him for coming. We always, enjoyed catching up with him, and he with us as well. So, we tend to forget sometimes. One of my coaching clients was telling me he had 5 dental hygienists in his office, just built a new office, 5 dental hygienists, that's 5 patients every hour checking out. Guess what? He only had 3 receptionists and 3 FPOS terminals to process those 5 people checking out. So what he was getting, what he'd created, was a bottleneck at his dental office every hour of people leaving, because he also had people being treated for restorative by the 2 dentists. So he actually had 7 people every hour leaving and only 3 people to check them out. Now, and again, talk to your wife, talk to women you know. Look at yourself. Have you ever been in a queue or a line at a checkout at a store, and you thought, this line's not moving, and you just dropped the goods that you're going to buy and walked out because you couldn't wait? That's the scenario that he was creating in his office. He delivered the process. He was expecting them to pay, but he was making them line up to give him the money that he required for doing the work. I think, we've got to look at that process. Can we make that process of handing over the money be supplementary? Can we have enough people there? So in a one-on-one situation of handing over the money, most dental offices, where do they hand over the money? They have a public area and an upstand, and the money's handed over at the front counter. The more progressive ones have private offices where you have an appointment scheduler scheduling the appointments. But is it a matter of fact process, or is it more a conversational process? We endeavoured to create a conversational process so that talking about the fees, what was done, what's going to be done next time, was just, whatever it is, I know roughly what it's going to be. that was the relationship that we had with our patients, was that it was all part of the process. So people would finish their treatment, but they might still be in the office for another 45 to 60 minutes, still chatting. It was really, truly a different place to go to get your teeth done.
Yeah, I think I'm really starting to understand. So what you're saying is this gentleman who flew across, and to come and see you, he came because he trusted you, the person, and your team. He knew you guys had his back.
Exactly.
He felt safe. He felt taken care of. And he enjoyed the people he was coming to see every 6 months.
That's
So
correct.
it was
Yes.
worth it for him to take the time and the money and go past hundreds of dentists to come see you. But 20, how long did he come and see you? For a long time.
28 years.
Wow.
And in fact, Naren, he was a patient of mine before I bought that office. He was a patient of mine when I used to work 7 miles away, and he switched to follow with me because we built up a relationship when I was working as an employed dentist, and so he carried on being seen by me at my new office, and then for another 28 years at my new office.
So you're pointing to something very interesting. Do you feel, I know you had a very successful practice. Do you feel this ultimate patient experience is the number one reason you were successful?
Well, I think it certainly was a point of differentiation, Naren, because in my location, in the part of Sydney where I was working, it wasn't a high-end part of Sydney. It was an average part of town. People drove average cars, they had average jobs, lived in average size houses, they earned average incomes. And yet we were able to build a successful practice where the fees that we charged were significantly higher than the average dentist, because we were providing an ultimate patient experience. It was a place where people went for exceptional care. And so, in my town, in my Chamber of Commerce business meetings, people would often come to me and they'd say, you're the go-to dentist. When people come to us and say, who should I go to the dentist? They say, well, you've got to go to Active Dental. You've got to go and see David Moffet. They say, it's not cheap, but it's worth it. And that's how I wanted to be known. I wanted to be known that this was the place to go if you wanted to be looked after. Now, you have to back that up with doing good dentistry. Your dentistry has to last, it has to not fail, and it has to not hurt. But those are mandatory things that every dentist should be doing. But it's the associated experience that people have. So now I can remember once, walking through my client lounge, and there was a new patient out there being concierged into the practice, and he was saying he was there with his partner, his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure who, and he passed the comment, to our office manager who was looking after him. He said, I can't believe how different this place is. He said, this not only is this not what I expected from a dentist, he said, this is different from all other businesses that I go to. Now, this person hadn't even met the dentist yet. He hadn't even met me. But his experience of what he'd experienced leading up to that point to make that remark was showing that he was receiving an exceptional amount of attention in getting to that point compared to what he would expect from a dentist or what he would expect from becoming a customer at any new business. And it's easy to do. It's just a matter of building your processes and making sure that your processes are enacted and implemented.
Right. I think you're pointing, you used some interesting words. You used the word human beings. You didn't say people, you didn't say, patients, you call them human beings. So I'm guessing, again, I want you to explain what you mean by that. I guess, are you pointing to these people have feelings, thoughts, desires, perceptions, and one of the biggest feelings is that they want to feel taken care of. They want to feel that you care about them.
You're exactly right. And so we tended to not use collective nouns like patients. In fact, I steered well away from that. I always felt that patients were people who went to hospitals to get better. And in
Right.
dentistry, we're looking after people who are primarily healthy and maintaining health. A lot of dentistry is preventive, maintaining their oral hygiene, maintaining the status of the work that we've done. So the term patient implies, inpatient. It implies somebody, going to have an operation. So we thought they're not really patients. They are more clients or customers. They are customers because they're paying for an experience. But instead of collectively labeling them as people, that tends to, give you a picture of a crowd. If you say there are people, you would think, a number, a crowd, a small group. I wanted to think of them as what are they individually? Well, individually they're different. They're different people. They're a collection of persons. They're a collection of human beings. Every human being is different. Every human being has a different thought pattern. They may arrive at similar outcomes and results when they think, but the processes they go through will be different. But you raised a very valid point there at the end of your question, Naren, and it comes down to a phrase that Mary Kay Ash used to say, and that is that everybody out there is walking around with an invisible sign around their neck that says, "Make me feel important." And this was the driving statement in my business, was that we need to make each and every visitor to our dental practice feel important. We've got to make them feel valued, understood, welcomed, and we've got to make them feel important. Because if they feel inferior, and a lot of dentists do this subliminally, unconsciously, I'm the superior dentist, I know what I'm doing, let me tell you how to do a filling. And they give instruction on what they're going to do, bore the pants off their patient, their customer, their client. The dental patient doesn't want to know that. The dental patient wants to know what it's going to look like in the end. It's like buying a car. You don't really want to know how the petrol, gets from the tank to the wheels to make the car go faster. You just want to know what you look like behind the wheel of that car, how you feel in that car, what your friends are going to say when you park that car out the front of their place. And sometimes we forget that it's about that person feeling important, valuing them, thanking them, going through the processes of welcoming them into the office, welcoming them to the dental operatory, to the dental chair, thanking them at the dental chair, thanking them during the dental process, during the procedure, checking in with them during the procedure, making sure that everything's going okay, checking them out with certain specific questions which they think are tailored, or they don't even think they're tailored. They think they're just directed straight at them. But they're specially crafted questions that are made to feel individual to each and every visitor to your practice. But if you don't ask those questions, then the patient, the client, the customer doesn't get to feel that experience. We used to go through and think of questions we could ask where we knew that the patient, that the client would answer in the negative. But the value was in asking the question as opposed to never asking the question. Have I lost you on that one?
No. I think I'm still kind of thinking about the word human being.
Yes.
And so I think, so I'm being, right? I'm being, and I'm being human. What does it mean being human? I guess human in my mind is somebody who has thoughts, feelings, somebody who has fears, somebody who has biases. Maybe I had a bad experience with a dentist who I thought was trying to only sell me stuff. Right? Now I'm coming in with that bias, coming in with that fear. Oh, I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know if this guy really cares about me, or is he just going to sell me stuff? Right? I'm coming in with all these things, anxieties, concerns, worries. Maybe I had a bad day. Maybe I had a fight with my wife or husband. Right? And I'm coming in with that. So you're saying, if you don't treat them like a human being, an individual, somebody with feelings, thoughts, desires, struggles, challenges, and you treat them like a patient is kind of a thing you work on, right? You totally miss that bond, that relationship, that trust they have in you. And doesn't matter how great you are, like your skills, your whatever, but if they don't feel that you value them as a person, like as a human being, like, it's like a relationship, a husband and a wife, right? If your wife doesn't feel you value them as a person, you care for them, then it really doesn't matter how big your house looks like.
Exactly right. Exactly. And so what are the connections that a new patient to a dental practice is looking for? And when they come in, they want to be welcomed. There are certain things in their mind that
And when you say they, you mean you're pretending it's you, right? Like,
yes.
If you are coming into a practice,
yep.
What would make you feel important? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So having somebody ready to greet you, knowing that you're arriving, knowing who you are. So, Naren, you make an appointment to come to my office at 2:00. I already know that information since you've made that appointment. I know that at 2:00 on Tuesday, somebody who I've never met before is going to walk in that door and tell me that their name is Naren and they're here for an appointment. So I'm going to be waiting for somebody different to walk in the door. And so when they walk in the door, I'm going to be there ready to greet them. I'm going to be ready to greet you. And I'm going to say, hi, you must be Naren. I'm Jane. I spoke to you on the phone. Welcome to Active Dental. Now, you're not ready for that sort of greeting. You're anticipating that you're going to walk in, you're going to have to ring a bell, somebody's going to appear from somewhere, behind a desk, around a corner, through a door. They're going to say, hello. They're going to ask you who you are, even though they know who you are because you've already told them when you made the appointment. Then they're going to give you a clipboard to fill in some information. Why would you not use the information that you already have gathered in advance to create an impression that your office had been expecting your visit? So that was simple. We've got the play sheet. We know who's coming in. We know what time they're coming in. And we know that if somebody turns up at that time who looks like they're going to fit the description of somebody that we've spoken to on the phone, there's a good chance that we can ask them or assume that they are who they are, or who we're expecting. And that's a point of difference straight from the start. What about a sign that at the front of your office that says, "Welcome, Naren,
Oh,
to
wow.
Active Dental"? You walk in the door and there's a sign there that says, "Welcome, Naren, to Active Dental. Welcome, Naren. Welcome, Julie, to Active Dental."
I think we have somebody by the name of Edwin here. Edwin, if you want to ask any questions.
Hi, Edwin. I'm David. Welcome to the water cooler chat.
Hi.
How are you? Where are you tuning in from?
Oh, I'm in St. Albert, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, hello. What's the time there? 8:30?
6:30.
6:30. Okay. All right. So you're in Central Time.
Yep.
Good. How was your day?
Oh, great. I didn't know I was be joining something here. I thought I was just be watching.
Well, we've got you in on the process. So we've been discussing how to create a point of difference in your practice in terms of service to your patients. So tell me about your office and what you're trying to achieve, and what sort of information you're hoping to gather from our time together this evening.
Oh, I've got a pretty busy practice we're 3 dentists. I'm the main owner and 2 associates and 5 hygienists. Pretty busy, not looking for new patients really. We're pretty steady that way, just trying to get more efficient, get better customer service, and do more profitable procedures, I guess.
That's a very nice way to be. 5 hygienists. That's a very, it means you've got a very active patient base, a large patient base of trusted patients who value the treatment that you do for them. 3 dentists. Is that 3 dentists every day? So you'd have 10 operatories or more in that facility.
Yeah, 10 operatories. Yeah.
There you go. And what hours are you open?
7 to 7 Monday to Thursday, and then 8 to 4 on Fridays, and 1 Saturday a month.
Okay, that's great. How many dental front office people do you have dealing with those patients as they enter and exit your practice?
3 to 4 front end people.
Okay. So, and how many patients would come on any particular day to the practice? So Monday to Thursday.
On one day?
Yes.
Well, I have counted them, probably I'd say 40 to 50 in one day.
Okay, so 5 hygienists, not 5 hygienists a day then?
No, 3 would be working one day.
Okay.
Every day. Yeah, so they're kind of rotating through. Yeah.
So three hygienists, 2 dentists a day, that's 10 patients a day. That's a nice steady flow. Very good flow. All right. So are you turning new patients away?
I'm not accepting new patients for myself without 2 referrals, but the 2 other associates are taking new patients.
Okay. Wow.
It's a different situation. My business partner for 30 years, he passed away last year.
Yes.
So it threw a lot more work on my plate. So that's why I'm not taking new patients.
I've got you. How long do you anticipate that you'll keep working?
Myself, probably 5 or 6 years.
All right. And the associates, are they younger than you? Have you?
One's been out for 4 years, so she's
Yes.
been working for 4 years. So she's 28 or so. And the other guy is about my age, but he had his own practice and he sold it, and he just wants to work as associate again for another 5 or 6 years. That's his plan.
Okay. All right. So there's still an accession plan that needs to be put into place for you, so that you can transition out of the practice successfully.
Yeah, I've got a son in second year dental school as well.
Oh, there's your answer. It's problem solved. What a
We
nice,
hope.
what a great father you are. What a very pleasant thing to be able to gift him, or at least offer him at good terms.
Yeah, I wouldn't be gifting it. I never agree in free things. It never seems to work.
You should have a wife like mine. My children seem to get everything for nothing. So, but anyway, no, I don't have a son as a dentist. How can I help you in terms of? And thank you for joining. This is our first water cooler session, and we've got about 12 minutes left. How can I help you? Is there anything in particular that you think could be improved in your practice? Eric, thanks for joining us. I see you there.
Well, I do have a practice management person right now that I'm working with. So we're changing a lot of things in terms of, the practice in terms of how we are dealing with people, how we're presenting treatment, getting the hygienist involved in taking intraoral pictures on every patient and showing them problems before we get in the room. So we're in the process of that kind of better customer service. Also bringing the patients up to the front and explaining what we talked about to the receptionist in front of the patients. So they're hearing it again a second time, our findings. So yeah, it's a process we're going through to try and get better in terms of, getting them to commit to treatment.
Sounds like you've hired somebody who's read my book.
I read your book last year, actually, too.
Yeah, those were two of my key things for success. Was the hygienist being the trusted first point of contact, and so the hygienist being thought of by the patient as being an independent person presenting an open diagnosis of what needs to be done, and then the dentist coming in and confirming that treatment, as opposed to, in a lot of practices, hygienists were just there to clean teeth, and then the dentist would arrive and diagnose cold, and so the acceptance of treatment was less when the dentist did it the second way than in the first case, where, as you said, the hygienist takes the photos, presents information to the patient, says they're going to point, I'm going to point this out to Dr. Edwin. The patient says, what do you think he's going to do? The hygienist can offer what she thinks will be what you're going to do, which is often what you will do. And so the treatment is already accepted before you come in to view the pathology, which is really good. The second thing that you're doing very successfully is not relying on technology to transfer information to the front for the patient's departure, and verbally handing over the patient so that the patient's hearing the information for the second or third time. They're hearing it during the appointment, they're hearing it at the end of the appointment in the operatory, but then they're getting that information again. And it's like, and Naren and I were talking about this before you joined the call. It's building the relationship. The more they hear the information, the more times they hear the information, the more accepting they're going to be of that information, so that the handover or the handoff at the end of the appointment at the front desk is a choreographed process of making sure that the patient understands, accepts, and schedules the necessary treatment that we have diagnosed and presented to them. And we're not selling them anything that doesn't need to be done. What we're doing is making sure they get done what needs to be done, because the tragedy of most dental offices is they underpresent because they under-transfer, and they therefore end up with people leaving the office with work that needs to be done that never gets done, and that creates a time bomb effect in your community. It becomes an emergency that comes back to haunt you at the most inopportune moment. And I've seen specialist dental practices where the patient turns up at the front desk and the person there says, well, let's just see what comes up on the computer. Well, I watched and patients, in a specialist office walking out with, I've got to think about it, got to talk to my husband, don't know what I'm doing that day. And the opportunity is lost because the preparation hasn't been, the preparation in diagnosing, presenting, and, closing is what it is. We have to make sure that they accept the treatment, because it's in their best interest to get it done before it gets worse. And so it sounds to me like you're definitely on the right track in terms of the improvements you're making in your office. And if these then flow on to your junior associates, or future purchasers of your practice, down the track, they will be buying a very successfully run and practice with very well trained patients who know how to accept the treatment, because this is how it's always being presented to them. You're almost wishing I could fix my arthritis and come and buy your practice, because it sounds like you've created a very successful, or you're in the process of creating a very successful dental practice there.
Yeah, we're just in the process. We've just been doing it for a couple months now. Yeah, but we're seeing a big difference already. Like the receptionists are saying, people are coming up front and saying, let's book this. Whereas before they'd come up and say, what are we doing? What's a crown? And they'd have to explain what a crown is and all that, right? So it's much better.
I'm so glad that this is happening for you, and that you're seeing the results so quickly. And I tell the story of one of my patients. I hadn't even removed the mirror and the probe from her mouth, and she was saying, what do we need to do? All right, let's book it. And I still had I'd found some decay on the back of a premolar that was filled, and I said, it's down on this margin. I said, it's really going to need. She goes, what do we need? I said, well, it's going to need a crown. She said, let's do it. And I literally still had the probe and the mirror in my hand, and I was seated over her. And this was because of the relationship that we had with that patient, that relationship of trust. And Naren and I were talking about this beforehand. It's when they come to your office, they know you, they trust you. It is an experience. It's not so much about what you're physically doing to them. It's the enjoyment of seeing you. You've been their dentist for so long. You've known them as they've grown old. They've known you as well, you haven't grown old, but you've aged, or time has passed us all. But we've shared these stories. We have this trust. So it's more than just the physical mirror, probe, tweezers, decay story. It's the whole experience. And when you have that trust, and then you add in that process, as you just said, of diagnosing with pictures and diagnosing in a sequential manner, that means that they get the treatment. They schedule the treatment and have it completed as it's diagnosed, rather than think about it, wait for it to get worse. Nothing worse than seeing a dentist and the patient says, I know you told me this was going to happen, and the dentist says, I know I told you, and it's much worse. And you think, if only they had done the treatment when it had first been seen, the cusp would be under the crown instead of the crown trying to hold on to missing tooth. You know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Your life is getting so much easier because of this new way of just sequencing the processes that need to be done, and they trust you. They want, because you've built that trust. They know you have their best interests at heart, and they want to get the work done. And Naren and I were talking about this. Sometimes as dentists we forget that the number one thing that patients want is they don't want things to get worse in their mouths. They certainly don't want things. They want to know what's got to be done, and a lot of dentists don't tell it, or they tell it so late in the appointment that the patient starts, they don't feel the trust. And so by presenting it early and having the hygienist do it independently, you've created a perfect scenario for improving case acceptance and treatment acceptance. Definitely creating a successful dental office there, Edwin. I'm proud of you. Very well done. Thank you for saying that you read my book last year too. I'm glad it soaked in. So thank you.
Yeah, I was interested in taking your course, but you're always in New York or something, right? That's where you've had a couple of courses.
Yeah, I don't get to Canada too much. Either New York or Dallas are the places that I tend to fly into, and unfortunately, the US is not as populated over your side and up towards your border either. So
yeah.
I tend to go to the more populous parts, and Dallas is good. It's just one flight from Sydney to Dallas, and maybe in the next few years, I think Qantas is really trying to work on fuel economy to get across to New York in one go. So we'll just have to see. But
I think, David, you're planning to do a kind of a mastermind, right? Like a virtual mastermind at some point? Maybe.
I am
So
now.
maybe that
So
might
I'm
be-
just working on the logistics of that for sometime next year.
Right. So that means he doesn't have to travel. You don't have to travel. You guys can see each other and work with each other at some point.
Yes. So these sort of arrangements with Zoom are very, very good in those sort of situations. It's also lining up the times, Edwin. But this is a good time for me. Working with Mountain Time and West Coast time is much easier, especially as you pass into winter next month and turn your clocks back, and we've now moved forward. The time difference is less. It's one day more, but it's less in terms of separation. It's when I start talking to West Coast to the East Coast in our winter. It's 14 hours or 10 hours the other way. So I'm getting up at 7 in the morning and it's 5 in the afternoon over there. That makes life tough. They all want to go home, and I really want to still be in bed. So maybe Hawaiian time would be best, Naren. What do you think?
I had a question real quick.
Thank you.
You said when you repeat the treatment plan in 3 different ways, it's more impactful. Is it because for human beings, when we hear 3 different people say it, it becomes more true for us as opposed to one person saying it?
It's a combination of both, and you raise a really good point. I don't know if I mentioned it or I was going to mention it and I didn't, but it's like educating children. If we tell a child to do something once, they often don't do it. If they hear it a second time, there's more chance. If they hear it a third time, there's even more chance. So how can we present that in the dental office without it being a dictatorship type situation? So the dentist saying it 3 times is not really as effective as if they hear it multiple times. Now, in my office, one of the interesting things that we used to find, and my wife was my receptionist towards the end and my office manager towards the end, scheduling appointments. And so the patient, and Edwin, you'd know this, the patients would often say to your scheduler, they say, "Do I really have to get this done?" And my wife would answer, And the answer that she would then want to hear the patient say, which was always the case, the patient would always say, "That's exactly what he said." So everybody's got to be singing from the same hymn book. Everybody's got to know the reasons why things are going to be done. So in my office, what I would tell the patient during the appointment, or let's look at if it's something that's discovered during hygiene. They'll hear it the first time. Then the second time they hear it in hygiene, they hear the hygienist telling the dentist. Then the dentist then retells to the hygienist at the end of the discovery of the examination what needs to be done and what needs to be done first. And then the hygienist then takes, or the hygienist assistant then takes the patient out to the front area and works with the scheduler and retells the story again. So that you're right, they're hearing the same information, but they're hearing it from everybody. They know everybody's attuned to the treatment. Everybody's attuned to the condition. Now, I know that some dental professionals, hygienists, get a bit funny and say, I'm not really allowed to diagnose. But, I had shoulder replacement a few years ago, and so I had to have an ultrasound and x-rays, and I can remember going in and as soon as the radiographer put the scope on my shoulder, the first thing she says, "Gee, you've been giving that shoulder some work." Now, she's not really allowed to say that, but she can tell by looking at the image that that's not a brand new healthy shoulder. It's an arthritic joint. Same with ultrasounds. You take your wife along or whoever, your daughter, for an ultrasound. The radiographer's not allowed to say what they can see, but they know what they're looking for, because if they don't present and take the correct images, the radiologist is going to ask them to do it again, and it's more radiation. So they know. So your hygienists know what decay looks like. They know what bad margins look like on restorations. They know what cracks look like. And I always used to ask my hygienist, have you ever seen something that needed to be done and then the dentist came in and didn't see it and the patient went out and didn't get it done because it hadn't been presented? They go, "Yes." I said, "How do you feel about that?" They say, "Felt terrible." And so I said, "Well, what I want you to tell me is everything that you see that you think needs attention. That's your role. I will then confirm with you whether that's what we're going to do, whether we're going to do something more or whether we're going to do something different." And with time, it becomes like Torval and Dean. Torval, which one? Jane Torval? She used to fly through the air. She didn't say, "I'm going to jump now," and he'd go, "Well, I'm going to stand over here and catch you." They knew what they were going to do. They were synergistic. And so that's how your hygiene exam should be. It should be an efficient passing on of information. And the benefit to the hygienist is that the dentist's actually in there for less time, because he's just confirming what the hygienist has seen. And so the hygienist has more time to clean the teeth, which is what they love to do. So there's multiple benefits. It shortens the amount of time the dentist actually needs to be in there, because he's often only really, if you've got a very thorough hygienist who can see everything and present everything, areas of concern, there's less time needed for the dentist. It's very beneficial. So I think, Edwin, you're really on the right page. Edwin, might invite you to do the next water cooler.
Still a work in process.
Well, I look forward to you joining us in a month's time for the next chat. We're going to wind this one up just a fraction early because I have another webinar to go to on the hour. So thank you very much for joining us. And if you can watch the replay back to some of the questions that Naren was asking me beforehand. Really appreciate you joining us, and good luck with your practice. And if you've got any questions, just fire them off to me. In the meantime, anyway, happy to help. But sounds like you're getting really great help from your your consultant. So I take my hat off to you and to them for not only finding a good way of doing it, but implementing the processes that will create a better practice for you, better practice for your patient, and better results for both. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So thanks, Naren, also for joining me on the water cooler, and it's been a pleasure presenting this for the first time. And I think we could probably even talk on this subject again down the track. We really only did scratch the surface, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think there's like 7 or 8 others. I guess they have been quiet today. Maybe next time they can jump in and ask questions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, sounds like somebody's got a microphone going in the background. So, Naren, I'll sign off now. Thank you again. Thank you, Edwin, for
thank you.
doing that. I don't know if you caught. We had a big downpour and thunderstorm here during the middle of the call. About the time you joined, Edwin, it became very dark outside.
Oh.
A couple of claps of thunder in the distance. But we're getting some good rain, and we don't need it where I am, but we do need it on our farmlands to create some growth. I heard a farmer on the radio this morning saying that half an inch of rain creates an inch of grass, and he was also explaining the difference between how cattle eat grass and how sheep eat grass, and also we have kangaroos, which are vermin down here. So the kangaroos and the sheep, they can get the grass, they get right down to the dirt, but the cattle only get down to about an inch. So you really need long grass to grow for the cattle to be able to grow the beef that's needed. So droughts are no fun. So I'm hoping this rain's coming down a little bit west of here. Anyway, that's the weather report for today. Thanks, Edwin. Good to chat with you. Naren, thank you very much. And I'll end the meeting now, Naren, and we'll chat again for sure. Edwin, appreciate you joining us. And Eric,
see you again.
Thank you as well, and those others as well. All the best, everyone.
Bye-bye.